Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Mallard Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. lawmg.com. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. The number of Hoosiers who died from COVID-19 nearly doubled in November, and hospitalizations and positive cases are setting daily records. Just ahead, how the state is changing contact tracing.
To help ease this bottleneck, we've shortened our script for interviews of positive cases.
9 Indiana coal plants are scheduled to close or be partially shut down over the next decade. That has some community members worried about how their towns will survive.
If we don't reestablish either industry or business or a reason to draw families to this community, then they're going to locate elsewhere.
Bloomington is considering zoning changes that could allow duplexes and triplexes in all the city's residential neighborhoods. More on the controversial proposal just ahead. And the latest news headlines from across the state right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Well, following the Thanksgiving holiday, health officials continue to issue dire warnings as hospitalizations for COVID-19 surge across Indiana. Brock Turner reports on the changes the state is making to handle the pandemic.
Only 20% of the state's ICU beds are available, and more Hoosiers are hospitalized and dying from COVID-19 than at any point in the pandemic. Data from the COVID Tracking Project shows Indiana has more new positive cases per 1 million people than any other state in the Midwest. That has health officials worried about the state's capacity to care for sick patients. But it's also beginning to affect Indiana's ability to trace each new positive case.
The increase in cases also has placed more pressure on the contact tracing system. We recognize that we needed to make some changes to our contact tracing process because with more cases, interviews were taking much longer and we're seeing more cases lost to follow-up. To help ease this bottleneck, we've shortened our script for interviews of positive cases.
The real strain, however, could occur in the coming weeks. While INDOT says there were declines in Thanksgiving travel, many Hoosiers still gathered. That has officials concerned that COVID-19 related numbers will continue to rise. Despite those alarms, Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb has resisted calls to implement more restrictions on businesses.
This has a lot to do with we, the people, as individuals, caring for others and taking steps and recognizing that any short-term sacrifice or inconvenience is tenfold worth it for the long-term gain.
Some argue the governor is handcuffed by a lack of federal support. Earlier this week, Indiana Senator Mike Braun reiterated his support for an additional economic stimulus package and said he's been in contact with Holcomb.
A lot of the economy is back on its feet, but there are certain sectors and many small businesses, part of what I mentioned, and their employees that still need targeted help. And I think there's a decent chance that that might happen.
At issue, though, is the amount included in the package. Even though a proposal with some bipartisan support was presented earlier this week, passage before the first of the year is highly unlikely. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Brock Turner.
Indiana reported a single-day record with more than 8,500 positive coronavirus cases. That was reported Thursday. Now, today, another 8,000 positive cases were reported. It's It's only the third time the state has recorded more than 8,000 new cases in a single day. The state also documented 84 new COVID-19 deaths, increasing state totals to more than 367,000 cases and 5,800 deaths since the pandemic began 9 months ago. Only 17 of the state's 92 counties, though, remain in that red zone, which means a 7-day positivity rate of 15% or higher. Indiana health officials say new COVID-19 quarantine guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention should help healthcare workers, teachers, and students get back to work and school quicker. Now, previously, the CDC says if you're exposed to someone with the virus, you should quarantine for 14 days. But new guidance says if you show no symptoms, you can end quarantine after 10 days.
I really think that this is going to help us get more kids back in school sooner. So I'm very, very excited about that. And I think it's going to give a comfort to our healthcare workers who are going back more quickly.
State health officials say they hope to make a COVID-19 vaccine available to every healthcare worker and nursing home resident by the end of December. Drug makers Pfizer and Moderna are currently awaiting federal emergency authorization for their vaccines. The state hopes to get initial shipments as early as mid-December, but it's unclear exactly how many doses will come.
That first week, our allocation is going to be smaller, but then the next week, our goal, if we get the amount of vaccine that we're hoping to get or that we have projected out through December, we'll go ahead and open it up to all of our healthcare providers across the entire state.
Weaver also says the state will have more detailed information next week about vaccine distribution. The state will not mandate anyone get the vaccine, but doctors insist once approved, the vaccine's safety won't be compromised. Indiana is working with hospitals to ensure the vaccine can be stored at its required temperature, -70 degrees Celsius. Well, the Catalent facility in Bloomington will play a role in the vaccine's production and distribution once it's approved. The New Jersey-based pharmaceutical company signed a deal with Moderna in June to fill and package 100 million doses of the biotech company's vaccine at its plant in Bloomington. In September, the company announced it was spending $50 million to install an additional high-speed vial filling line that should be operational by April and be able to produce 80 million vials a year at the plant. Catalent announced earlier in the year it was adding 300 people to help with the increased production. The company currently has more than 1,200 workers in Bloomington. Well, Bloomington's Unified Development Ordinance is the document that sets the local zoning and building laws. Proposed changes to that document stirred up controversy last year when the city tried to get rid of single-family zoning. That proposal is now back on the table and could affect the layout of several core neighborhoods. Ethan Burks reports.
The Unified Development Ordinance, known as the UDO for short, has the flexibility to change over time through what are called added amendments. One of those amendments being proposed right now is the Plex Amendment, which was considered by City Council last year, but didn't pass due to public opinion against it.
The controversial part is what they're planning to do with single-family zoning, which is essentially eliminated.
Sturbaum is a longtime Bloomington resident who has seen about 50 years of planning and zoning changes. He was on City Council last year and voted no when the Plex Amendment was first proposed.
From the very beginning, we resisted this plan to upzone these neighborhoods. At least a majority of us did. We thought that was decided, and I lost an election, and now, new start of the year, it's back.
The Plex Amendment would recategorize Bloomington's single-family neighborhoods into what are called R4 neighborhoods. That change in the zoning code means duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes can mix into these neighborhoods and allow for more types of housing. The city says the decision on where to place those R4 zones was based on proximity to downtown.
Those areas near town are the ones that can offer the most benefit if we can add density in those areas.
Sturbaum argues that allowing plexes in neighborhoods will encourage investors and property management companies to buy up homes and turn them into rentals.
You would suddenly be bidding against an investor. And so your chance of buying that house when he can put or she can put 4 people in it, 6 people in it, 8 people in it, and you're just the person that wants a home for the rest of your life, you're out of luck.
But Sturbaum is not the only one against it. During last year's proposal to push through the amendment, hundreds of residents packed into City Hall to voice their opposition, which ultimately led to its dismissal.
People spent hours and days and just unbelievable amount of their personal time trying to say to the city that they were opposed to this. And to turn around and just go, well, we're changing the plans. It's just so disrespectful to the process of local participatory government when people showed up.
But from the city's perspective, the amendment will create more affordable means of housing for more residents.
Providing more opportunity across racial and socioeconomic lines for diversity by building on, but also sensitively protecting the neighborhoods that we have now.
Sturbaum says he agrees the city needs more affordable housing, but he doesn't think this is the best way to do it. He says places like the new hospital redevelopment site and the land along South Walnut Street by Switchyard Park would serve as better areas for affordable housing.
The amount that it costs to rent in this town and how long it takes how long in advance you have to find something, it's clear that we do have a housing issue.
Sturbaum also says the neighborhoods that would turn into R4 zones in the amendment are already at a 50-50 split between rental and home ownership, and opening them up to the highest bidder will tip the scale.
Trying to just eliminate single-family housing and thinking that's a magic answer, it's actually magical thinking.
Sturbaum fears investors will be hunting through the neighborhoods for properties to dump their money into because it's a stable venture.
It happens slowly over time. Nobody's going to get kicked out of their houses. But whenever a house turns over, it's going to tend to ratchet in the direction of an investment buyer rather than a homeowner.
The Plex amendment will be on the table in early January when it goes to the Plan Commission for discussion. If approved there, it would be up to City Council for final adoption. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Ethan Burks.
Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk, we take a look at how the impending closures of several coal plants around the state will affect local communities. In the first of a two-part series, we go to Petersburg, where almost everyone who lives there is connected to the coal plant. And the 10th-ranked Indiana football team will have to finish the rest of the season without its starting quarterback. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
Stay close to Indiana Newsdesk as we trace education issues all the way from the Capitol to your child's classroom. So many topics that arise each year in the State House affect what happens every day in the schoolhouse. The WTIU News Team is committed to helping you stay up to date with the issues that affect your family's future. Keep yourself informed. Tune in to Indiana Newsdesk, your source for regional and state in-depth news.
Welcome to Amanpour on PBS. I'm Christiane Amanpour in London, giving you the global view. I've covered the world for nearly 3 decades, and I'm dedicated to bringing you all the facts. Please join me for conversations with newsmakers, world leaders.
Good to be with you, Christiane.
Artists and writers, the people who define, change, and challenge our world. That's Amanpour on PBS.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Brandon Bernard is scheduled next week to become the 9th person executed at the federal prison complex in Terre Haute. His motion to seek a delay for the execution was denied Wednesday by a federal judge. Adam Pinsker has been covering the executions. He joins us now to talk about the case. Adam, tell us a little bit about Brandon Bernard.
Yeah, well, Brandon was a co-defendant actually in a case from 1999. You may recall Christopher Villalba was executed in September as the trigger man in the double murder of a couple youth pastors in Texas. So now Bernard is actually up for execution, but his defense team says that he wasn't even present during the shooting. He actually came to the scene after the couple was shot and had no part in killing them. It was actually against killing them. So that's kind of the crux of the situation.
And now there are 3 more scheduled executions in January. One of those, the first woman in 70 years?
Yeah, since 1953, actually, was the last time the federal government executed a woman. This is in the federal system only. Lisa Montgomery was convicted in 2007 and sentenced to death for murdering a woman in Missouri and cutting out her baby. And the baby actually survived. So that's January 12th. And then there's 2 more within days of the inauguration of Joe Biden as president. Those will be on the 14th and 15th. So 3 total executions in the second week of 2021.
We got to go about 30 seconds, though. You were working on a documentary with Lisa Montgomery's case. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, on Monday night, 9:30, right here on WTIU, there's going to be a documentary about the Lisa Montgomery case. We actually went out to Missouri and talked to some folks who were involved in investigating the crime, and got to stay tuned. So.
Okay, and of course, we'll probably have that online as well if you don't catch it there. Adam, thank you very much. Well, within the next decade, 9 coal plants in Indiana are expected to close or partially shut down. While that may mean cleaner air, it can also have repercussions for the towns that host these plants. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Rebekah Thiel tells us in the first of a 2-part series how the partial closure of a plant in rural southern Indiana will affect the people who live there and how they're working to adapt.
Petersburg is a small town of less than 3,000 people. Almost everyone who lives there seems to be connected to the coal plant owned by Indianapolis Power and Light in one way or another. Tara Mullis is no exception. She owns the Caddy Shack restaurant, a small home-style diner made out of her grandparents' old storage barn.
Order up.
Mullis says about half her customers work at the coal plant. IPL expects to lay off more than 100 workers when it closes down 2 of 4 coal units there in 2023.
That makes up a lot of our community, and if they're not bringing in income, then they're not spending income either. So, yeah, it's worrisome.
But what really worries Mullis is what will happen if the plant ever shuts down completely. Her husband is a coal miner, and the plant purchases Indiana coal.
If they don't have places to burn coal that buy their coal to burn coal for energy, it's a downward spiral. He may not have a job either.
It's not just plant workers and businesses that stand to suffer from the partial closure, however. Schools could also take a hit. IPL is Pike County's largest taxpayer, and a little less than half of those taxes go to the district. When the utility shifted some of its assets away from the Petersburg plant last year, the district had to close its smallest elementary school. Pike County Schools Superintendent Suzanne Blake says the school corporation also gets about $6,000 per student.
If we don't reestablish either industry or business or a reason to draw families to this community, then they're going to locate elsewhere.
Attracting new businesses has been top of mind for the Pike County Economic Development Corporation. Executive Director Ashley Willis says the county has made some sites shovel-ready for industrial companies and helped fund a technology center. It also recently welcomed a new solar farm, which Willis expects will offset a third of the revenue that was lost last year.
Trying to get the next industries in here so that, we're not playing catch up and we don't fall behind. We want to transform and evolve as the trends do.
Blake says Pike County Schools is also doing what it can to attract industry by teaching the next generation of workers technical skills while they're still in high school. Kevin Carter teaches welding to juniors and seniors from 5 high schools in the area, and the classes are popular. There are more than 30 students enrolled this year. Carter says a lot of kids in Pike County grow up wanting to work at the coal plant. It's been seen as a high-paying, reliable job. He hopes his classes will open up multiple job opportunities for his students.
A skilled trade you can take and parlay into a lot of other jobs. You might be a welder at a coal mine or a power plant, but you could also maybe manufacture or do welding at like a Toyota or some other manufacturing facilities.
That idea appeals to senior Hunter Russell, who wants to be a mechanical engineer. He and his parents were all born and raised in Pike County, and he says he hopes to stay there.
Once I get to college, I've thought maybe traveling around a little bit, but I'm always probably going to be a homebody. I like it around here.
Though the Petersburg coal plant will have a partial shutdown in 3 years, IPL hasn't set a date to retire the plant completely. While the state works to figure out how Indiana should transition away from coal, locals hope they'll have enough time to make sure this small city doesn't turn into a ghost town. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Rebekah Thiel.
Now, part 2 of the series focuses on a coal plant in Michigan City, Indiana. We'll have that for you next week. Indiana University is working to clean up debris in space. Old satellites and booster rockets have left hundreds of millions of pieces of junk in Earth's orbital space. As Rebekah Thiel reports, that can hinder space missions and leave less room for things that provide GPS, self-service, and satellite TV.
IU professor Scott Shackelford is the executive director of the Ostrom Workshop. He says back when there were just 2 major players, the U.S. and the Soviet Union, international partners saw space as a shared resource. But Shackelford says the U.S. has taken an increasingly nationalistic point of view.
Even the George W. Bush administration's NASA vision for space exploration really thought about a U.S. moon base, not something like the International Space Station, but a base basically just for the United States.
Now, more countries and private industries, such as Elon Musk's company SpaceX, are getting into the space game as well.
So if we don't agree on the equivalent of rules of the road relatively quickly now, we could be in for a tragedy of the space commons.
Those rules could include sharing data about where launchers are in space and making sure each one has enough fuel to leave orbit when their useful life ends. The Ostrom Workshop is looking to identify all the players in space and how they can work together to share the final frontier. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Rebekah Thiel.
The Indiana football team is back in the top 10 in the national rankings, but as Pat Bean reports, the Hoosiers will be playing the remainder of the season without one of their biggest stars after quarterback Michael Penix injured his knee last week.
No one expected the Indiana football team would be ranked number 10 6 games into the season. And no one expected Jack Tuttle to be the starting quarterback. But that's where the Hoosiers are heading into this weekend's game at Wisconsin. Tuttle was thrust into the starting role when Michael Penix suffered a season-ending knee injury in the third quarter of last week's win over Maryland. It's the same injury Penix suffered as a freshman in 2018 and ends a third straight season prematurely. And the redshirt sophomore was having a great season, leading the Big Ten in both passing yards and touchdowns.
Put himself in position to play the level he was playing at, and then to have it all just cut short so fast. It's tough.
Tuttle transferred to Indiana in 2019 after spending 1 semester at Utah and didn't play much for the Hoosiers last year. Replacing Penix last Saturday was his first action this year. But the 6'4", 215-pound Tuttle was a highly rated quarterback coming out of high school.
Jack Tuttle's a special player too, and I know he hasn't played a lot here on game day, but he has a big-time arm, and he's got tremendous football instincts and football IQ, and he's extremely bright. But his biggest quality is, I think his greatest quality is his work ethic.
Being the starter won't change how Tuttle approaches the game.
It's kind of the same for me. Every week I try and prepare like I'm the starter. And every week we kind of put earmuffs and blinders on to the outside and focus on the internal and our opponent.
Tuttle has the luxury of having plenty of skilled players around him on offense and one of the league's best defenses. Ty Freifogel leads the Big Ten in receiving yards and touchdowns. Running back Stevie Scott is coming off a 3-touchdown game that earned him the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week award. And the Hoosier defense leads the league in sacks and interceptions. Still, Allen is asking everyone on the team to step up with one of its star players sidelined.
It's about every group elevating 1%, every position group, every phase of the game.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Pat Bean.
The Hoosiers will wrap up the regular season at home December 12th. That's against Purdue. Indiana then plays the Big Ten crossover game against an opponent to be determined on December 17th. Well, with the holiday season fast approaching, shoppers won't just be looking for presents. They'll also be looking for Christmas trees. Pat Bean reports on the lone remaining tree farm in Monroe County.
Jean Hopwood has owned the Twin H Tree Farms in Bloomington for 4 decades. And in that time, she's seen a lot of changes in the industry. One of the biggest is due to the warmer weather and its effect on being able to grow trees traditionally used for Christmas.
I used to wholesale trees, and now I have to bring trees in because the climate's changed. It's too warm. I was on the border of being too warm to start with, too far south. But it's definitely warmer now.
Hopwood says she can no longer grow the types of trees that are popular as Christmas trees, the Douglas and Fraser firs, and the Scotch and white pines. The summer growing seasons have been marked by either drought or too much rain, which leaves trees susceptible to fungus.
I can't really grow anything except Norway spruce. I can't grow blue spruce or white spruce anymore. It's not going to go away. The fungus is not going away.
And while there are trees in the field to be cut, most of the sales at Twin H are pre-cut trees shipped in from Michigan. But that means a wider variety of trees are available.
20 years ago, Douglas and Fraser fir were not as available to us because they were not grown in this area. Now, because of shipping and such and them growing more trees, they're more available to us.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Pat Bean.
And Indiana State University marked the official reopening of the Hallman Center after a 2-year, $50 million renovation. The 10,200-seat facility opened in 1973, hosting countless ISU sporting events, including the 1979 men's basketball team that featured Larry Bird and finished second in the nation. The state appropriated $37.5 million for the project. Hallman Center will have its first ISU event after the renovation when the Sycamores women's basketball team faces Murray State. That's tonight, but of course, due to the pandemic, it'll be open to essential personnel and family only. Well, that's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. lawmg.com. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.